Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniatures, and it's Friday, which means more Obscurities in Literature. Ta-da! So today we have a book that I'm particularly fond of, and I don't even remember where I first discovered Katsuya Terada, probably with his Monkey King manga, which has been long out of print as far as I can recall, both in Japan and overseas, maybe somewhere in Europe it's still around, but it was a really gorgeous book. And anyway, his name stuck with me, and lo and behold, he's actually done a lot of work over the years, and you probably recognize him from a lot of his book covers. He did a lot of book covers and book illustrations over the years, done some work with Marvel, I believe. Really prolific artist. And what's neat about this guy is he is one of the few Japanese artists that I think is really overtly influenced by a lot of the new wave French stuff that was coming out in the 70s, particularly Mobius, but Bilal and his Nicopole trilogy, stuff like that. There definitely is that French surreal sci-fi undercurrent to a lot of his stuff, and I think he's pretty open about that. But the other thing that's really cool about Terada is he has got to, and I mean he's got to have been a major influence on Lockman Lamb's Kingdom Death art. Unfortunately, this book is more of his painted pieces rather than... Oh, that's Pacific Rim. Was that Pacific Rim before it even came out, maybe? I don't know, but they do have a little Guillermo del Toro forward here. I gotta be careful with this book because, number one, the binding sucks, but number two, he has copious amounts of undressed ladies. But you can see just in the design work, it's very manga-esque, but at the same time, it's not, which is hard to really describe, but there definitely is a more Western European bent to his work. And I mean, you can start to see here in just the layout and the way things come together, there absolutely is some hints of his influence that he's going to have on Kingdom Death later on down the line. And funny enough, Terada actually did the original spot illustrations for the old Legends of Zelda Famicom Nintendo games. If you ever go online, do a search for it, it's quite interesting, and you can see some absolutely parallel pieces in their design compared to Kingdom Death. Very Bisley-like. In some of the work also. Then again, I always liked Simon Bisley's work. Get into some of the more recognizable stuff while trying not to get too censored up by YouTube and their puritanical regime. So I recognize this one from the Blood books. Not that I ever read them in Japanese. But it should be instantly identifiable if you're familiar with the anime. Some of these I can recall seeing in various game magazines. Some of this stuff. And that's the other thing I wanted to point out. This book is not the greatest with referencing where all this material comes from. There's a little index in the back, and it doesn't really go into much depth. It's Frankenstein illustrations. You can start to see, like I said, there is a bit more of that European style to the art. If you're familiar with those comic artists. As well as what I feel kind of like a Jamie Hewitt punky, clunky tank girl look to everything. Kingdom Death influence, you think? Spot illustrations. He's got a thing for drawing well-endowed ladies as well, but they have a very unique look to their faces a lot of times. Again, you can see there is that definite European comic art influence, especially that late 70s, like I said. Bilal, Mobius, Feels like Gantz before Gantz was a thing. Gantz has been a thing for a while. And skipping over some things that are going to get me into trouble here. More of that line art. Then again, I feel like there is a very strong influence on Lockman Lamb's art here. I want to say Terada did some Marvel covers at one point. Hard to take in the whole thing. Of course, with the Mobius influence as well. You can see shades of future artists like Brandon Graham stuff. There's a one piece in particular here that really feels very Graham-like. But again, having to figure out what all this stuff comes from, some are pretty easily identifiable, like an Assassin's Creed piece or Sin City. I'm going to say those are Hellblazer covers. Seven Fortunes. Okay, those I'm pretty sure are the covers for the Basilisk series of, it was manga, and it was a movie, and it was a big thing for a while there. Interesting uses of color. And I left my copies on the Shinkansen one time, and I'm still kind of sore about that. Assuming it's supposed to be Goemon Ishikawa. Certainly looks like him. Boiling in the pot and all. Cool ladies. Stuff. Skip. Where's the one I want? Of course, the big double-page spread in the middle of the book. Let's see if I can get it nice. And again, there's those shades of Kingdom Death. I want to say this was a fantasy book cover, or I want to say it was actually one of the Wizardry games. I know there's some of the Wizardry game covers that he did. Get a very whimsical, surreal, Mobius-like style of art. Ladies, you're going to get us in trouble here. Come on. Okay, now these I know. That absolutely was one of the Wizardry games on the PS2 because I can remember playing it. And recognizing the artist. Again, not your usual manga look thing. Now here, if you want any further evidence that we have very Mobius-derived artwork, I swear, the first time I saw this, I thought it was a Brandon Graham piece. I mean, it looks like something both of those guys would draw. Nope, it's Terada. Monsters and girls. That seems to be a very regular theme with his work. Not that that's a bad thing. But again, trying to identify what any of this stuff is or where it came from, good luck with that because there really isn't much. Let me show you in the back here. Again, very Mobius feel with a very clean, empty use of space. Weird shapes. The guy definitely doesn't do things like everybody else. And for that, I admire him. There we go, there's some nice Mobius style work. Of course, I think that is similar to the piece we already saw earlier. Maybe they all are, in fact. He did a lot of these where it would be like a face kind of superimposed with a bunch of technology junk. Reminds me of this guy that did Lone Sloan, Drouillet. If I'm pronouncing that right. He did a lot of that kind of stuff too. And I swear this reminds me of that looks like Wingman and Video Girl Eye. And is that Z-Man? Was that what it was called? Terada? I don't remember. The guy that did Video Girl. I mean, that totally looks like it's supposed to be. Maybe it is. Doo-doo. What is it? That was a Makai Tensho cover. So definitely there's some interesting stuff. And there's a Mobius piece if I ever see one. Style piece. The artist himself. So yeah, there's definitely some stuff in here. And like I said, there is just a very quick commentary on selected pieces for about 8 pages, and that's all you get. The thing is, the guy's done a ton of work. This is the first book, I believe, that was actually published in English. Not that there's a whole lot of words here, per se, but he has a pretty large bibliography at this point of books, and some of them are crazy size. So if you see some outrageous shipping costs for some of these, if you start trying to hunt down his stuff, yeah, there are some pretty big, heavy, slip-cased, boxed books of his. Usually involve girls in various states of undress or with robots or monsters, but yeah, there are definitely some interesting stuff out there. So if you're interested, I don't know if this is still in publication. It was put out by Dark Horse a few years ago. I hate to put a link to Amazon because I'm afraid it's going to have some ridiculously overpriced cost, but we'll see. Okay, so I'll put one down there just in case, and hopefully it will help you fall down the rabbit hole of checking out some of his other stuff. And by all means, seriously, go take a look. Type in Katsuya Terada, Legend of Zelda, and you will be amazed at just how similar the aesthetic and style is for a lot of the line work. Not the painting stuff, but the line work, kind of just pencil and ink and color drawings that are in the Kingdom Death rulebook are very similar in style. So I thought that was a really cool thing. Anyway, that's enough from me. With that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.